Story, Suckers 1. Am I the bad guy for telling my roommate that her pregnancy isn't my problem? Her pregnancy is not my problem. The girl I live with is pregnant and due to give birth at the beginning of next year. Of course, she's very excited about having a baby, but at the same time, she keeps turning her pregnancy into my problem. I get that pregnancy affects her body in a lot of ways, but even before this, she was a real pain in the ass and difficult to deal with. I had to throw out all the bananas in the apartment because she complained the smell was too strong. She no longer helps with cooking or cleaning the way she used to. She cries over almost every little thing, and it drives me crazy. Her pregnancy makes her throw up, which I expected, but sometimes it gets really intense. One time, she didn't make it to the bathroom and vomited right on the floor, and I was the one who had to clean it up. For the last few months, she's been asking me to go to the store and buy her things, even on good days when she says she's not feeling that bad. When I asked her why she couldn't just get up and go to the store herself, she answered that, out of the two of us, she's the one who's pregnant, so I should be the one doing it. This is where I might be the bad guy. She asked me to drive her to her doctor's appointments. I did it once, but then it turned into a regular expectation, and I started saying no. Here's what happened the other day. She asked me to drive her to the clinic. I refused. I was busy that day. She kept begging me, and eventually I got fed up and snapped. I told her that she alone is responsible for her pregnancy, and that she shouldn't be making it my problem. I said she needs to stop constantly asking me for favors. She started crying, and I walked out because I couldn't stand it anymore. I know I might have been harsh to a pregnant woman, but I don't feel like I should be her personal servant. So, am I the bad guy? At first glance, this story makes it seem like the author is not the bad guy. Why, Nastya? Why is this story even in this episode? What did you see here? It feels like this person is just overwhelmed, and it's perfectly reasonable, at face value, that he doesn't want to take care of some random woman and her pregnancy. But then comes a little plot twist. A very sharp, very perceptive commenter with the username Bezbozhna Boginya 1968, Godless Goddess 1968, decided to ask the author, "Is this your baby?" And the author replied, "Yes." At that point, the story goes in a completely different direction. Now, the author isn't just a bit of a jerk. He's an absolute asshole who deliberately wrote about his pregnant partner, pregnant with his child, as if she were just a roommate, so he could hear people tell him how right and wonderful he is. Honestly, I don't even have the words to fully describe what I feel toward this guy. The anger and disgust I feel toward a person like this are hard to put into sentences. This man seriously needs to do something about his brain and reconnect with basic reality. I don't feel like I should be her personal slave. Of course you shouldn't be her slave. Pregnancy isn't an illness and blah blah blah. But this isn't about slavery. This is basic care. This is how a man is supposed to behave when his partner is carrying his child. And that's still not all. The author didn't stop at one comment. After he admitted it's his baby, another commenter wrote, "You are the bad guy. She's doing all the hard work by carrying your baby. The least you can do is be there for her. She clearly seems to be having a rough time. Are you planning to act like this once the baby is born? And why didn't you say right away that she's your wife?" And the author replies, "Her pregnancy is her responsibility. I'm just waiting for the baby to be born so we can be done with this. She's my roommate." I mean, she acts like a roommate, not like a wife. How did he even manage to convince himself that this is not his responsibility? And again, that's still not where he stops. He keeps commenting, more of his comments. 161 downvotes. I'm not the one sitting at home whining and not taking care of myself. Minus 226. We planned this pregnancy, but I didn't know she'd turn into a lazy, controlling, clingy, emotional child. Minus 125. I agree. I set boundaries from the very beginning and she hasn't budged. I don't know why she doesn't ask other people. Or better yet, why she doesn't do it herself. I'm not her cook, not her driver, not her babysitter. Seriously, why would she ask other people instead of her own husband? This is some kind of narcissistic disorder or what? How can you have zero empathy for your pregnant wife who is carrying your baby? More comments from the author, I'm her husband. That one has 392 downvotes. I mean, technically I could just leave, but I know her family would be furious with me if I did. Well, I think this is even more obvious than that pregnancy story from the previous episode. Here, it's painfully clear he doesn't love her. It's obvious he's looking for a way out. But if that's the case, why on earth plan a pregnancy? Do you have even a tiny bit of common sense? Do you seriously not know what can happen during pregnancy? You don't know what pregnancy is? You don't realize your wife is literally growing an entirely new human being inside her body? Music. Let's read some of the other comments. Not the bad guy. You're setting boundaries. Good job. Now go find a new apartment and leave before it gets even worse. And then there's an update under that comment. You are the bad guy, a massive one, hiding the fact that your roommate is actually your wife, and the baby is yours. I hope karma catches up with you and you face the consequences for how you're treating your wife and child. Next comment. Wow! What a way to twist the story in your favor by calling your wife, pregnant with your baby, your pregnant roommate. That's incredibly disrespectful to her and your child. You got her pregnant. This child, and therefore the pregnancy, is just as much your responsibility as it is hers. Of course, the father buys food and drives the mom to her appointments. That's the bare minimum. She's suffering so she can bring your child into the world. It's really sad how you talk about your family and how you behave. You are absolutely going to be a terrible father. How do you even walk around this world like this? How are you not ashamed of yourself? Please, to the author of this story, go see a therapist. Story number 2. Am I the jerk for defending my wife after she purposely poured coffee on a child? Am I wrong for standing up for my wife after she deliberately poured coffee on a kid? My wife and I are both 34 and we don't have children. My brother Mark is 28 and started dating a 30-year-old woman, Heather, about a year ago. She has 3 kids, a 12-year-old daughter, Anna, who is 100% a problem child, and 2 boys, 6 and 8, who are great. Anna, on the other hand, constantly does crap on purpose just to get under people's skin. She's incredibly rude, and her mother lets her get away with everything. We have a small lake house, and once a year we host a big barbecue and family weekend there. Mark brought Heather and the kids. Anna spent the entire weekend acting like a little menace, starting arguments, throwing tantrums, hitting, and so on. Heather just stood off to the side saying, "I don't know why she acts like this," instead of actually doing anything to correct her child. My wife was getting more and more pissed off by the hour, but nothing compared to what happened yesterday. Yesterday, we were all sitting outside, chatting and enjoying coffee, while Anna was, as usual, running under everyone's feet. Several times she was asked to go play with the other kids, but she refused and kept finding excuses to insert herself into the adult conversation. At one point, she grabbed a fly swatter and started chasing flies around all the adults, knocking our coffee over multiple times. She also kept hitting my wife with the fly swatter, insisting there were flies on her, even though there weren't. Eventually, my wife looked straight at Heather and said, "Either take your kid away from here, or I'm going to lose my mind." I'd already talked to my brother a few times, asking him to step in. This was after Anna spilled my wife's fresh coffee on her for the second time. Cold coffee, by the way. My wife doesn't drink hot coffee. Heather's only response was a half-hearted, "Anna, go play," and that was it. No follow-through. Anna comes back, smacks my wife on the forehead with the fly swatter, and says, "There was a fly there." My wife picked up her coffee, the 3rd cup she had just made for herself, cold again, and poured it over Anna. Anna immediately bursts into tears. Heather starts freaking out, and so does my brother, saying my wife was childish and that Anna is just a dumb kid. My wife calmly puts her cup down and continues the conversation like nothing happened, while Anna, Heather, and Mark are losing their minds. Then Heather says, "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" And my wife replies, "Make sure the door doesn't hit you and your demonic offspring on the ass on your way out." Some of the adults are saying maybe we should apologize. Personally, I don't think so. Edit. My wife told Anna to stop several times and even took the fly swatter away from her. Anna walked off, mocked my wife, then grabbed another one, while Heather and my brother ignored both Anna and her behavior. So Anna kept doing it over and over. Other adults also commented on the kids' behavior and spoke to Heather, asking her to tell her daughter to stop. A lot of steps were taken before it escalated to this. No, my wife did not have to leave, considering it's our property and we were hosting and paying for everything. My brother and his pathetic girlfriend should have dealt with the problem from the start. At 12, you're old enough to know right from wrong. Even her brothers don't pull this kind of crap. And another thing, it is not my wife's job to set a good example. like some of you claim. We don't have kids for a reason. Anna and her pathetic excuse for a mother were warned multiple times. By my wife, by me, and by other adults. This is their problem. I agree that the author and his wife were driven up the wall by the child's behavior. Let's be honest. Which of us hasn't been annoyed by someone else's kid when they're behaving horribly? But I don't agree with the method. I don't agree with taking your anger out on a child. The child isn't the root of evil. She's acting like that, yes, and it clearly needs to be addressed. But she is still a child, and it's her mother, and probably the author's brother, who are responsible for raising her. The person who should have gotten coffee in the face is Heather. These are your kids. Watch your kids. If the wife had poured coffee on Heather, I honestly wouldn't have had any problem with it. If you're an adult and you still don't understand phrases like step in, look at how your kid is behaving, do something about it, then yeah, all the adults are protesting, and Heather does nothing, and she ends up with coffee in her face? That would be fair. But when a 12-year-old kid gets coffee thrown in her face, yes, she is old enough to tell right from wrong. Yes, she definitely shouldn't be behaving like that. I completely agree. But she's still a child, and I just can't say I feel any satisfaction from this kind of revenge. Because it's not actually going to change anything. Heather is just going to keep thinking that everyone around her is awful, and that's it. She'd probably think the same even if the coffee had been poured on her. But at least that would have been more satisfying than dumping coffee on a child. Let's read some comments. I would launch my kids straight into open space if they did this to adults. The fact that her mother silently encouraged it and did nothing to stop it is very telling. Next one. When I was a kid, there was a boy at my church who was younger than me, maybe 8 or 9, and he figured out how to pinch people really hard. He loved how it made people shriek. His parents scolded him, pulled him aside, took things away. Nothing worked. They just couldn't get him to stop. One day, he pinched my mom. She turned around, grabbed his arm really firmly, and said straight to his face, "If you pinch me again, I will pinch you back, and you won't like it. You've been warned." He looked a bit confused and glanced at his parents, who just silently exchanged a look with him. The next week, he was at it again, pinching people. He pinched my mom. She grabbed him and pinched him back really hard, with nails and everything, and she had big, strong hands. He yelped and looked at his parents, who said, "She warned you," and turned their backs on him. And that was it. He stopped. He finally understood that it hurts. And a huge part of that hurt came from the fact his parents didn't protect him. You might think Anna will learn something from this, but she won't, not if her parents shield her. This story also gives me mixed feelings. I don't think what the mom did there is as cool as the commenter seems to think, that she pinched an 8-year-old kid. Again, I get that his behavior was unacceptable. You can't just go around doing that. And yeah, his parents did a lot more than Heather and the brother are doing here. But when an adult woman physically retaliates against a small child, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me. I honestly don't know what the perfect solution would be in that situation. I keep running scenarios in my head, like, what if it hadn't been a stranger who pinched him, but his own parents? That's also questionable. Maybe if the parents had shown him on each other how much it hurts, like the dad lightly pinching the mom, or the mom pinching the dad, not actually hurting them, but making it look painful enough for someone to cry, so he'd realize, oh, this really hurts. Maybe that would have worked. I don't know. Next comment. Not the jerk. Anna needs to learn that life has consequences. Cold coffee is a very minor one. Clearly, she's never experienced anything like that before, judging by how Heather is raising her. She's lucky it was cold coffee. Kids at school could have broken her jaw over that kind of behavior. I don't understand parents who hit their kids. My personal opinion, for screw-ups like this, especially with kids that young, she's not even a teenager yet, 12 is still a child. The ones who should face consequences are the parents. They're the ones who then have to go home and actually teach their kids something. If nothing gets through to the parents, how is anything going to get through to the child? And I don't think a kid can really process what happened without a proper conversation with the mother about why. The mean lady poured coffee on her. What she's going to hear is just, she's a psycho, she hates you, that's why she did it. And nothing about her behavior will change. So it just didn't make sense. In short, don't hit kids, hit their parents. And right after this story, I suddenly wanted another coffee, and mine was already gone. Oh, what's this? Is that war? 25 coffee roasters? That's right, friends. For those who don't know, 25 Coffee Roasters are producers of fresh, natural, specialty coffee who want to spread coffee culture among Ukrainians. They have more than 40 different coffees from 13 countries, and they're constantly expanding. I absolutely love coffee and can drink it by the liter, but there's one problem. I know nothing about it. So I wrote to them, told them what flavors I like, and they suggested what I should try. And honestly, it's a bomb. What's even cooler is that they help our soldiers. 25 UAH from every pack in the Sakar 25 Coffee Roasters Gay line goes to support the army. They also help animals. 25% from every pack of the Kevin Coffee Cease line goes to the Home of Rescued Animals shelter. And for you, my beloveds, there is a promo code SOT REDIT for 20% off all whole bean coffee, except drips, sets, and combos. The discount is valid for 2 months from the release of this video, so you'll have plenty of time to stock up on Christmas and New Year gifts, and even snag something for Valentine's Day. So yeah, thank you. And now, on to the next story. Story number 3. Am I a bad person for not leaving my boyfriend after he cheated? This one is from a subscriber. Quick reminder, we have a Google form where you can send in your stories. The link is down in the description. So, am I a bad person for not breaking up with my boyfriend after he cheated on me? I'm an 18-year-old girl. Back then, I was 16. I was in a relationship with a guy who was 22 at the time. We hadn't been together very long, about 3 months, and everything was absolutely great, right up until my absolute worst birthday. On my birthday, my boyfriend spent the day with his ex, and when he finally came over to see me, he told me how much he still loved her. That same night, we were drunk, and we had sex almost right after he said that. I convinced myself it was just drunk nonsense, but literally, the next day, he was with his ex again. I saw them. I ran away from home to my friend's place. Shortly after that, I found out I was pregnant, and a few days later, my boyfriend cheated on me. We didn't talk for 2 months. He didn't know about the pregnancy. In the end, I don't have a child. After we broke up, I started living a pretty self-destructive lifestyle. Drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. I was in a lot of pain. Then, a mutual friend brought us back together again because, in his eyes, we were the perfect couple. We've now been together again for 2.5 years, and I know I haven't forgiven him. It still hurts to be in this relationship. I get upset over tiny things. I'm extremely jealous, and I don't understand where this relationship is even going. I don't want to live in constant distrust. I don't even know if I love him. Every time we argue, I bring up the cheating, and he always responds with, "Then why are you still with me if I'm so awful?" It hurts every time I think about it. So, am I a bad person for not walking away from this guy? I have a few thoughts, and you might not like them, dear author. First of all, I'm not very comfortable with the age gap. I get that now you're 18, legally an adult. But the fact that a 22-year-old man was dating a 16-year-old girl. Yeah. Whenever we bring up age gaps in other stories, a lot of people rush in with examples of their parents. They had a big age gap and they're very happy together, and all that. Sure, that exists. But personally, I don't like it when a fully grown adult gets into a relationship with someone who is still very much a child. Controversial, I know. Genius of diplomacy here, obviously. Of course, I'm not in a position to tell you, dump him, or leave his ass, or he can go to hell, because this isn't just some random Reddit story I read, where the author will never even know what I said about them, and I can tell them whatever I want. This is your personal story, written for this channel, and I can't just command you to leave or stay. But about the question, am I a bad person? I think you're being unfair to yourself. I think you're being kind of cruel towards yourself here, because it's obvious you still haven't forgiven him for cheating, and you've just been torturing yourself this whole time. In my opinion, I wouldn't forgive cheating. I know myself. Even if I said, okay, I forgive you, I would just turn both our lives into hell afterwards, especially his, but mine too. If a person decides to forgive cheating, then I think you actually have to forgive it. Really. Because I don't see the point of staying in a relationship that only makes you miserable. The fact that you constantly bring up the cheating, that it still makes you unhappy, that you fight about it, and you don't even know if you love him. In my opinion, that already answers your question about whether you love him or not. I understand it's hard to leave a relationship. And again, I'm not telling you, you must leave. That's your decision, your life. But I do want to remind you, you are still very young. You're only 18. Your whole life is ahead of you. Is it really worth spending your youth on someone you're not even sure you love? That's my take. And, friends, I also want to use this moment to remind you that we have a Telegram channel. Am I a bad person for not subscribing yet to Euchre Reddit on Telegram? Of course not, but you definitely should do it. In our Telegram, you'll find lots of interesting stuff. Fascinating facts about our universe and other people, extra stories, chats, tons of cat content, and full audio versions of the episodes. Hi everyone, you're on the UKR Reddit hosts channel. Real stories of real people. See how nicely that sounds? We also have a Buy Me a Coffee, if you want to support us. All the links are in the description. And now we move on to the next story. Am I a bad person for making my daughter move out because my husband got obsessed with her? Story, sure 4. Am I the bad person for making my daughter move out because my husband became attracted to her? Oh my God, I'm 55, married to my husband, who is my daughter's stepfather. He's 63, and we've been together for 4 years. My relationship with my 23-year-old daughter is complicated. She has been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. She's deeply traumatized by watching my horrible marriage to her father fall apart, and by the bullying she went through at school. When she told me her classmates were bullying her, my belief that all children are innocent completely tied my hands. I told her that if I said anything to them, I'd look like an adult harassing kids. Since then, she's blamed me for it and constantly brings up the time the kids at school called her trash because due to depression, she wasn't taking care of her hygiene. My response, partly but not fully, was to tell her to shower and to buy her new clothes. Eventually, the bullying ended after the ringleaders were suspended and expelled. She still remembers that the school clinic volunteer told her that if she were their child, she'd be allowed to hit back if the administration did nothing. I thought that having her live with me while she finished school and found a job would help heal some of her childhood wounds, especially if my second husband and I modeled a healthy relationship. But now my daughter and my husband don't get along. She's very introverted, creative, and loves escapism, so she found it uncomfortable when she'd sit at the table alone and my husband would sit across from her and eat. She'd say she'd eat later so she could eat by herself. Then my husband started acting distant with me, and my daughter complained that his eyes lingered on her for too long. She was furious. There was a lot of yelling and slammed doors. Eventually, my husband admitted that he's attracted to her and that it's hard for him to be around her all day. He said she's a walking temptation, and that's why he's been avoiding sex with me. I was devastated when I heard that. I don't blame my daughter for any of it, but the situation became unbearable and something had to give. I couldn't think straight with both of them still in the house, so I gave my daughter money for a long-stay hotel and told her to use the emergency financial and housing resources her college offers to students in crisis. In response, she ran to my ex and told him everything. Now he's circling me on social media, using this to paint me as the ultimate villain. I am not abandoning my daughter. She's entitled to those resources anyway, since my ex is unemployed and we're in serious debt. I just need time to think this through. I don't want to leave my home to go stay with my daughter when my marriage is on the line, and I still have to decide whether to stay in it or not. Am I the bad guy? God help us. First thing I want to say is about the husband. If your child, because that's effectively what she is to him, he's her stepfather, is a walking temptation to you, then gouge your eyes out and remove yourself from the situation. What the hell? Second thing, the mother. The fact that she was so worried about looking like an adult bullying children is wild. If I were in that situation, I wouldn't chase the kids. I'd chase their parents and the teachers who allowed it. I'd follow them. I wouldn't let them sleep. I wouldn't let them eat in peace. They'd be afraid of every shadow because they'd be scared I was there. And I would be there. They'd jump at every little noise. I honestly cannot imagine how a mother, knowing her child is being bullied, just shrugs and does nothing about that crap. And the fact that her 63-year-old husband openly said he's attracted to her daughter and that he can't be around her all day, and her solution was to kick the daughter out instead of this creep? Mother of the year. Okay, babes, you're 50-something. Don't worry, just a little longer, and you'll be living in a nice nursing home your daughter will never visit. What a disgusting person. And I don't know much, honestly. I'm not very educated about this diagnosis, but thank God the commenters are, so let's read them. YTA. First, it's hard for me to believe her diagnosis just magically appeared after seeing you argue with your ex, develops from repeated trauma before the age of 10. Second, you're punishing your daughter for your husband's inappropriate behavior. Kick him out until you figure out what's going on. Next comment. I can't believe more people aren't talking about this. People don't just develop DID from watching their parents argue. I don't even want to imagine what this poor girl went through to feel like her only way to survive and feel safe was to split parts of herself into separate identities. The mom is a piece of crap for how she's treating her daughter now, but I'd bet money that her bad treatment of this girl goes way back. Next comment. YTA. Kick out the husband who can't keep his eyes and his dick to himself. How can she stay around this man after what he said? His stuff would have been packed and on the porch in an hour. I wouldn't even be debating, should I divorce him or not? It sounds like the OP has a very long history of refusing to protect her daughter, and I'd bet there are many more incidents she's not mentioning here. Yeah, I think the OP is 100% one of those mothers who would happily sacrifice her own children just to hang on to a man. And I love how now the ex is spinning around on social media using all this to make her out to be the worst villain of all time, as if she isn't already a complete piece of trash. And that's our last story for today. Story number 5. Am I the bad guy for walking out of a restaurant and leaving my girlfriend there? This one is not the last in the lineup, but definitely not the weakest when it comes to emotional damage. This story is actually what inspired this whole episode. I can barely get through it. My girlfriend and I were having dinner at a restaurant when she got a text from her best friend who had just given birth. She said, "Wow, she had a C-section." My girlfriend works as a nurse, so she started explaining to me what kind of incision they make and what kind of scar it leaves. I jokingly said, "Well, at least she'll still be nice and tight down there." My girlfriend immediately got uncomfortable and said that was a weird thing to say about her friend. I told her it was a perfectly normal joke, but she disagreed. We started arguing, and I asked her to drop it, but she kept talking about it. I told her, "You're so insecure," and she replied, "Do you feel good calling me that?" At that point, I got really angry, stood up, walked out of the restaurant, and drove home. I had driven both of us there, but I was so fed up and just wanted to go home that I turned my phone off. She showed up at our apartment about 30 minutes later and was furious. She called me an asshole, said I completely overreacted, and that she had to stand outside in the cold for 20 minutes waiting for an Uber. So am I the bad guy for walking out and leaving her there just because she was upset? I don't know about you, but this is probably another one of my controversial takes. I would also be incredibly uncomfortable if my boyfriend started talking about my friend's vagina. Not only is it obviously gross, but that's actually the smaller part of the problem. The bigger problem is the joke itself. Why? Why is that the first thing that comes to his mind? Why didn't he ask, "Oh, is she okay? Wow, that must have been really tough." It's vile. You know those nasty little comments people think are funny jokes? They show you exactly who that person really is. And I honestly think that if someone hears she had a C-section and their first thought is about how tight she'll be, that's just not a good person. Let's read the comments. You're the asshole for making a completely unnecessary, sexist comment about your girlfriend's friend's vagina and for not understanding basic biology. Extra points for calling your girlfriend insecure, throwing a tantrum like a child, and storming out of the restaurant. Yeah. What kind of adult behaves like that? Imagine if she joked about how some other guy has a really big, long, hard dick, then called her boyfriend insecure, left him alone in the restaurant, made him pay for both their meals, and pay for his own ride home. Next one, and my favorite. You're the asshole for the joke. You're the asshole for thinking it's normal to say that. You're the asshole for calling your girlfriend insecure. You're the asshole for getting pissed off and running away. You're the asshole for leaving your girlfriend without a ride home. You're the asshole for turning your phone off. And you're the asshole for posting this here and making me read this crap. Every day in this world, it gets harder and harder not to hate everyone. Those are the stories we've got for today. I'd like to say I hope for the best, but honestly, I don't anymore. I do hope you enjoyed it, that it was interesting for you. Please like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.